السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا حبيبنا محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا. أما بعد. My brothers and sisters, today I'm going to talk about safeguarding our children. The recent few days we've been listening quite carefully and observing discussions and debates in a government report and independent report about safeguarding children in faith institutions. It's become a major topic of discussion. We've been talking about it even from before, but I thought it would be a good reminder for all of us to understand, from an Islamic perspective, what safeguarding our children really means. Today, we don't have many children in this masjid because they're at school. Only 2 weeks ago, or last week, they were here. When the masjid is full of children, I feel a sense of joy. I look at those children and I look at my future, our future, and I feel both humble as well as hopeful. Humble for what Allah has created and hopeful for the future of this ummah, that we still have children coming to the masajids. What would be the case if children stopped coming to the masajids? What would be the case? Our masajid would be dead. We would all pass away very soon. There will be nobody to inherit these wonderful buildings that our families, our parents, our uncles, our community leaders, elders, and young ones have built. So I find great joy and delight when I see the masajid full of children. When I hear their laughter and their cry, I know there is a future for the Muslim community wherever they are. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to be so concerned about the welfare of children, even when he is standing for prayer. It is reported that Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam one day speeded up shortened the amount of recitation that he would normally do. He did not recite the Quran for as long as he wanted to. He shortened it. When the companions asked, Ya Rasulullah, why did you read such a short few verses of the Quran? His response was, I could hear the cries of the babies with their mothers. And I did not want to distress a mother who is already distressed by the cries of the child. If I prolong the recitation, I will distress the mother. SubhanAllah. My brothers and sisters, such was the compassion of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that we all follow. And he said that one day Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was praying and he stayed in his sajda for a very long time. A very long time. And the companions stayed with him, of course. The Imam does not say Allahu Akbar, you just stay. When the Imam says Allahu Akbar, you go. Until a reasonable time. Something could have happened with the Imam. So somebody will have to check. So after a long while, one of the companions said, I checked and I still saw Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I did not move. After the prayer was over, Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was asked, O Prophet of Allah, why did you stay in the sajda for so long? Did you receive revelation? Did you receive wahi? It is not uncommon that Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would receive wahi. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, no. So why did you stay in the sajda for so long? He said, my grandson Hussein was playing with my back. And he was using my back as a slide. He was getting on it and sliding off. Getting on it and sliding off. He was enjoying himself so much. I did not want to disturb his joy. Allahu Akbar. I did not want to disturb my grandson's joy while he is riding me as a slide. Allahu Akbar. Brothers and sisters, this is the example of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Rahmatul lil alameen, Allah called him the mercy to the universe. Very different to some of us, not all of us, some of us, the way we behave with our children or behave with other children. Allah's Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, all of you are guardians. He said, all of you are guardians. كلكم راعي. All of you are guardians. وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. And all of you are responsible for something, somebody that you look after. You're responsible for the people that you're supposed to guard. And that's why he said, كلكم راعي. All of you are responsible. And then he says in the same hadith, in details, who is responsible for what, as an example. He talks about how king is responsible for the citizens. How a man is responsible for sustenance of the family. How a woman is responsible for homemaking and the children. How we're all guardians responsible for somebody to guard. We're all responsible for our children and safeguarding our children, especially when they come to public spaces such as masajids, places of worship. When our children come here, my brothers and sisters, for studies, their welfare is directly handed over to the management of the mosque. When you bring your child to the mosque, the child's welfare is directly handed over to the management of the mosque. So the management of the mosque becomes the responsible person, the guardian, the body that is guardian. As Rasul said, كلكم راعٍ. At that time, the masajids, the management, are the responsible guardians. The mosque management must have adequate safeguarding policies and measures in place to protect our children in every way possible. In every way possible. Only yesterday, I was reading one of the reports, an imam was found guilty of sexually abusing a child inside the mosque and sentenced and fined in America. I believe, brothers and sisters, I know of cases. Now they're adult. Those people are now adults. Some of them are my counseling clients. They come to see me on a regular basis. And I can tell you horror stories of people being abused at the hands of the guardians, the responsible people, unfortunately. Not all cases, in some cases. Even if it's one, as far as I'm concerned, it's far too low. So I want to talk about this uncomfortable, difficult, sensitive topic today, and inshallah we'll talk about it more in the future. Our children's physical, our children's emotional, intellectual, spiritual well-being is entrusted on the management of the mosque. Our children's physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual welfare is entrusted on the hands of the management of the mosque. If any violation takes place, it's far too many. It should not be acceptable, it should not be tolerated, and such management must be brought to account. If individuals are found guilty of such crime, they should be given the most severe punishment and handed over to the police immediately. No protection for anybody. No protection for senior members of the committee. No protection for a senior imam or a junior imam. Whoever they are, if they're guilty of such a crime, they should be handed over to the police and they should be put behind bars if they're guilty of a crime, and they should be punished for it. And they should be excluded from teaching in the future. This message must go out there loud and clear. It is an Islamic message that mosques are safe. Mosques are safe for our children. Mosques are safe for our adults. Mosques are safe for man and woman. Mosques are safe for Muslims and non-Muslims. Mosques are safe for everybody. In fact, mosque is also safe for an animal if an animal was to take shelter inside. Mosques are safe. Any violation of our mosques will not be tolerated. By anybody, should not be tolerated. And that's why the responsibility is on the management to ensure they have got safeguarding policies, procedures in place so that does never happen. Brothers and sisters, you may be wondering, he's talking about abuse here. What is he talking about? You know, brothers and sisters, in our mosques, in some mosques, unfortunately, abuse do take place. We have ample evidence where it has taken place. We know of people who have been prosecuted for abuse. And I'm asking you to carefully listen to what constitutes abuse according to Islam. What constitutes abuse according to Islam? I want you to listen to it very carefully. Number one, hitting a child or manhandling a child is called physical abuse. You heard me right. Hitting a child or manhandling a child constitutes physical abuse against Islam, against the policies of our mosques, against the law of our land. If you do that, you're in trouble. You will straight be sent to the police. Police will come and arrest you, and whatever happens to your fate is between you and the legal system. Nobody will come out to your aid. You hit a child, you have violated that child physically. My brothers and sisters, physical hit is a no. No. I remember when I went to my Islamic school when I was younger. In my school, hitting children was haram. I remember our head teacher. He said very clearly, in my school, if any child is hit, that teacher will be immediately disciplined. I remember in one incident, one of my teachers decided to hit somebody with a ruler. And I protested, how dare you touch these children, us, you're not allowed. He told me, you come here, I'll give you some too. And I was young, I had no embarrassment in telling this. I went over to the front, and he said to me, give me your hand. I gave my hand. And he tried to hit my hand, and I grabbed the ruler. With my hand, I grabbed it. And I put it on my knee and snapped it in half. And I said to him, my dear teacher, I respect you like my father. But you can't break the rule of our school. And I reported that teacher to that teacher. That teacher was expelled from the school for violating the school's policy. I don't tolerate it. I will never tolerate it for my children. I didn't tolerate it on anyone trying to do that to me. And I will not tolerate anyone doing to any children in any mosques in our country. If it comes to my notice, I'll be the first one to report them to the police. So, in any mosques, any madrasas, any schools, hitting children is a no-no from an Islamic perspective. Whether you like it or not, that's your decision. I am giving you safeguarding, I'm defining you what abuse is according to Islam. Secondly, being aggressive with your body language, including shouting irresponsibly, unreasonably to a child. Raising your voice is not the same thing as incessantly shouting. Aggressively shouting is not the same thing as sit down. That's not the same thing as constantly, abusively using your voice loudly and aggressively. Brothers and sisters, hitting the wall, thumping your fist, hitting the table or the ground constitute abusive behavior. If you're an adult, if you have to hit the wall, thump your fist, hit the table or the ground, you've lost control and you should not be in that classroom. You should get out and go and get some fresh air. You should go and speak to your safeguarding officer. You should go and speak to the mosque management and say, I'm struggling, please help. I can't discipline these children. Learn new ways of disciplining the children. You don't need to be aggressive. You don't need to scream and shout at those children with a voice that is unreasonable and irrational. Speaking to a child using vulgar language, obscene language, demeaning language, belittled language, condescending language, degrading language, name-calling or mocking language, all constitute verbal abuse. Please listen to it very carefully again. Speaking to a child using vulgar or obscene, demeaning or belittling, condescending or degrading, name-calling or mocking language are all verbal abuse. You as a teacher, you have no right to speak to a child like that. You have no right to speak to a child like that. Telling a child that he or she is not good enough, dumb, ugly, short, fat, constitute emotional abuse. Listen to it carefully again. Calling a child not good enough, dumb, ugly, short, fat, all of those constitute emotional abuse. You have no right to do that to a child. You can tell a child that his homework was not up to standard in a reasonable way. You can teach a child how to behave better in a reasonable way. But you don't have to mock a child. You don't have to insult a child. You don't have to degrade a child. You don't have to destroy a child's self-esteem in the name of discipline. A man came to the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Prophet, the guy had a baby on his hand. Prophet loved children, so he said, give me the child. The Prophet held the child on his lap, and the child urinated on Prophet's lap. Child is a child, probably going slightly nervous, urinated. The man saw Prophet's lap and his clothes were wet. The man became very upset, screamed and jumped and took the child away. Not baby, but child. Prophet said, why are you shouting? The man said, Ya Rasulullah, he has made your clothes dirty, he has made your body dirty. What am I going to do now? Prophet said, calm down, it's okay, it's only urine, I can wash it off with water. But what you have done to this child's self-esteem can never be repaired. By mocking the child or insulting the child, telling the child off in public in this manner, what have you done? You've destroyed the child's self-esteem. You want to discipline a child? Take the child to a side and discipline them nicely, kindly, but firmly. But don't insult them, mock them, or deride them in public and destroy their self-esteem, their confidence, and their self-worth. Safeguarding children, my brothers and sisters, including all of us, understanding that we have a duty on our children. Teaching a child's spirituality does not require you to judge on that child's piety. For Allah is the one who judges who is pious and who is not pious. As a teacher, you have no right to call a child unpious or impious. You have the right to teach them. You have the right to help them. You have no right to spiritually abuse them by shunning the child for the sin instead of teaching the child that they should not sin. Very big difference. You empower a child, you don't destroy that child. As a musalli, person who's in the masjid, when you're coming to pray, when we see the children playing around, don't shout at the children. Say nicely to them. Go to them, speak to them, sit down with them, have a chat to them if they're causing trouble. If they've got parents, speak to the parents first. If there are managements around, let the management deal with it. But pushing the children from any row to the back row, go to the back. It's wrong. That child will never forget that experience. That I went to the mosque and I was playing around being a child and somebody elderly couldn't tolerate it, screamed and shouted and said to me, get out of the mosque or go to the back row, or shut up, I've heard kids be told by adults. In a mosque, let the children speak. Let the children roam around and freely play. A man came to the mosque of the Prophet of Allah, and he told this child not to move. Prophet said to the father, what's wrong with this child? The man said, nothing. Prophet said, is this boy sick? The man said, no, Ya Rasulullah, it's fine. Prophet said, why is this boy not moving around? The father said, I told him not to move around. Prophet said, let the boy be free. Let him run around in the mosque, let him play. You know, brothers and sisters, it gives me great honor and pleasure to tell you this mosque is one of those unique ones. I brought my children from the day they were born to the front to this pulpit. They stood here on a pouch Allah delivered to you khutbah, and you never complain. May Allah bless you for that. My children always talk about their experience in this mosque, that they could come right to the front and stand with the Imam and pray. They still tell about these experiences to their friends. Why? Because you've been so good and so tolerant. You've been so nurturing to their well-being. Most of you have seen them, some of you know them by their names, and you see them growing up amongst yourselves. They become your children, they become your nephews, your nieces. They become the future of our community because you have nurtured them together. There is an African proverb. It takes a whole village to bring up a child. It takes the whole mosque to bring up a child, but in a safeguarded environment. You need to know your roles. You need to know your disciplined environment. You need to know how to separate your responsibility to the parental responsibility. You need to know how to safeguard those children, but be involved in the well-being of our collective society. For that is Islam. And we are not saying we cannot discipline our children, but we should all be together. Do you know how Rasul disciplined? Do you know how Rasul disciplined? Do you think he shouted at the children? Do you think he mocked the children? Do you think he insulted the children? No. He became the role model that they should be following. There is a saying, there is a story, that Rasul could not advise a child to reduce his sugar intake. He used to love sweets. Rasul reduced it himself first and then told the child. Brothers and sisters, you become the role model that you want to see in a child. You become the role model that you want to see in a child. You want to be aggressive to your child will be aggressive to others very soon. You want to be abusive to your child will be abusive to others soon. Mosque is the best place to bring them up in a safe environment. Mosque is the best place to show the shining example of what safety and security of our children really means. And I invite upon all the mosques in our country and all around the world. Let us become the beacon, the shining example of safeguard. Let there be not a single case of abuse of any kind from our masajids. That should be our standard. That should be our pledge. That should be our collective motto. May Allah protect us. May Allah protect our children. May Allah safeguard our children. And may Allah make them the future leaders of tomorrow. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa wala. Brothers and sisters, you know that this is a very passionate topic for me. That's why I speak from the depth of my heart. I have 2 children, and I know what it means to look after my children. I know what it means to teach them. I know what it means to discipline them. My daughter is 15 and my son is 13. I've never, ever raised a single finger on my children. May Allah keep me like this, that I never do, never feel the need for it, never get the yearning to do. You know why? Because they are precious gift of Allah. Do you hit something that is precious to you? Do you hit something that is worthy of protection? No. We're all protectors, guardians. Our children deserve a serious change in our society, in some sections of our society. What needs to change? With this I'll finish inshallah. Disciplining our children does not mean that we need to break our institutions' policies. Does not mean we need to destroy their self-esteem, their honor, or their confidence. Teaching our children does not mean we need to destroy their self-worth. Making them Allah conscious, giving them taqwa is not your duty, my brothers and sisters. Nurturing their knowledge, their talents, and their character is your duty. Your duty is not to make them muttaqi, because Allah is the one who gives taqwa and the one who judges. Your duty is to educate them, inspire them, and help them refine their character. Some of the measures that we need to have, and our masajids have, this masjid has, alhamdulillah, you must have safeguarding policies. We do have. We must have safeguarding training for our staff, our imams, our teachers, our volunteers, our assistants, our management, anyone who is involved in the mosque, especially mosque activities. We must have safeguarding officers and safeguarding leads so people know what to do. We must ensure that all our mosque rooms are protected by CCTV camera monitoring and recording so that it can be checked if there is a need for one. No student should ever be in a private space especially the underage ones, with a person on a one-to-one basis, without somebody supervising it, or without a monitoring procedure or a policy in space. There should never be a physical contact between the teachers and the students, because there is no need for it. There is no need for it. Salaam alaikum is not a physical contact. I'm not talking about shaking hands. I'm talking about any other physical contact. Brothers and sisters, all teachers must be DBS checked. All teachers must be DBS checked. And if they're found not to be competent, they should be trained. If they're found to be lacking in discipline, they should be given opportunities to train. We should collectively safeguard our masajids, our children in our masajids, and open up the space for our masajids. I want to finish by telling you that some children complain to me. Alhamdulillah, in this masjid, I haven't heard that complaint. Imam, when we go to the mosque and we go to the bathroom, we see flat toilets. We have never used them. It's not very welcoming for us. Can we please do something about it? What are they saying? They're saying we want to feel welcome in the masjid. They're not saying you can't have flat toilets if that's what you want, but also have the toilets that we're used to. They're saying create a space that is fun-filled. You like to come and pray, we like to come and pray. But after prayer, you like to stand outside and chit-chat with one another. We as children like to play. Where is our playground? Where is our football pitch? Where is our volleyball court? Where is our indoor sports arena? We have built a beautiful masjid, and I'm still waiting for you, the community, to come together to build a sports complex in this very building so that our children can play sports regularly, so our children can be active. We want our children to feel that they are welcome in the masajids. I want you to ensure that our masajids are open, welcoming and safe. May Allah protect us all. May Allah forgive us all. May Allah enable us to create a safe space for our children. May Allah safeguard our children. May Allah enable us to protect and safeguard our children. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Ya Akram al-Akramin, protect our children, Ya Allah. Protect our children, Ya Allah. Protect our children, Ya Allah. Keep them on your path, Ya Allah. Keep them on your path, Ya Allah. Keep them on your path, Ya Allah. Make them the leaders of tomorrow, Ya Allah. Make them the leaders of tomorrow, Ya Allah. Make them the leaders of tomorrow, Ya Allah. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, enable us to love one another, Ya Allah. Forgive each other, Ya Allah. To live in harmony and peace, Ya Allah. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Ya Akram al-Akramin. We are living in a very difficult time, Ya Allah. We're seeing fitna all over the world. We're seeing troubles in Afghanistan. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, we ask you especially to free Afghanistan from all troubles and fitna, Ya Allah. We ask you to free Afghanistan from all internal and external troubles, Ya Allah. We ask you to unite our brothers and sisters in Afghanistan. Enable them so that they can live in harmony and peace, security and safety with one another, Ya Allah. We ask you, Ya Arhamar Rahimin, to free Kashmir, Ya Allah. To free Al-Aqsa, Ya Allah. To free Yemen from the wars, Ya Allah. To free Syria and Iraq from the fitna, Ya Allah. To free our brothers and sisters in the Uyghur community in China, Ya Allah. We ask you to free our brothers and sisters in Burma, Ya Allah. Anywhere, wherever there are troubles, we ask you to free our brothers and sisters, Ya Allah. Restore peace and stability on this earth, Ya Allah. Restore peace and stability on this earth, Ya Allah. And finally, Ya Allah, in a time of this virus that is not only going away but getting worse in some areas, we ask you to give us relief from this virus, Ya Allah. Cure us from this illness, Ya Allah. Protect us from this illness, Ya Allah. And those of us who have lost our families and hazard their souls, Ya Allah. Those of us who are not well, give us shifa, Ya Allah. ربنا تقبل منا انك انت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا انك انت التواب الرحيم. ان الله يامر بالعدل والاحسان وايتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروني اذكركم واشكروني ولا تكفرون والله يعلم ما تصنعون. اقم الصلاه.
الله أكبر الله